Welcome everyone, my name is Ray, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the cognitive model and how we can use the cognitive model to really break down how we've been perceiving certain things in our lives and how we respond to it as a whole, so stay tuned. Okay, so the cognitive model, knowing is half the battle. Using the cognitive model to understand why and how you react. The cognitive model proposes that it is not a situation that directly impacts how a person feels and what they do. It is their perception of the situation or what they are thinking, the automatic thoughts that just seem to pop into their minds. When we're experiencing some type of form of distress, whatever's going on in that situation, our thoughts at the time can be unhelpful, inaccurate, or both. There are two types of cognitions: automatic thoughts and our underlying beliefs. So let's jump into automatic thoughts. Just as the name suggests, automatic thoughts can happen spontaneously without us even noticing based on our perception of our experience with situations, people, etc. Usually specific to the particular situation, can be verbal, so that internal dialogue that can go on in our mind, or imagery, so images that can also just pop up in our mind. So as we go through life and we're perceiving the situations however we perceive them, we don't necessarily always notice the automatic thoughts that just kind of pop up into our minds or the images that pop up into our mind. But we usually can identify that feeling, whatever that mixture of emotions that we're feeling as a result of whatever the situation is, how we're perceiving it. At times, that's what we tend to more so notice than the automatic thoughts that just kind of popping up in our minds. What's interesting is when we're able to reflect back and say, what was going through my mind at that moment of how we were perceiving it, we tend to make more sense of our emotions where when we feel the way that we do, our emotions makes sense when we understand the thoughts that popped into our mind based off how we're perceiving a situation. Ask yourself, what was going through my mind, to help identify your automatic thoughts. Keep in mind though, when we scroll back up to the top, when in distress, our thoughts can be unhelpful, inaccurate, or both. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to how we've been perceiving whatever's been going on in that specific situation. And looking at underlying beliefs, generalized ideas or understandings can appear as internal dialogue or unverbalized you have about yourself, others in the world. So kind of think about it as a lens, if you will, right? A lens in how we perceive, ourselves, the world, the environment as a whole. So it's going through that filter. Also keep in mind, our perception, thoughts, can be more positive, more negative, or neutral, and produce a different set of emotions. Our emotions influence our behavior. So when people kind of say, I'm in the mood to, I'm not in the mood to, think about how we've been perceiving that situation, how other people may be perceiving a situation that's influencing how we feel, which is influencing how we respond, which is how we behave slash act. So again, we really want to keep this in mind. And a common example we may hear is when a glass of water is half empty versus half full, how we've been perceiving it, how we perceive the amount of water in a glass. Is the glass half empty or half full? Is a proverbial phrase used rhetorically to indicate that a particular situation could be a cause of pessimism, half empty, or optimism, half full. But there are other viewpoints too, like realism, if poured out, half empty, if filled up, half full, but it is the only point of view, or as a litmus test to simply determine an individual's worldview. The purpose of this question is to demonstrate that a situation may be seen in a different ways depending on the point of view. So again, our perception, people respond and perceive things very differently based off of, again, how they're viewing that situation, their underlying beliefs. So we really want to get a good understanding, a great understanding of ourselves and essentially how we respond as a whole. So now we're going to use the cognitive model to really help us break down these situations to see what kind of automatic thoughts popped into our minds so that we have a better understanding of how we respond to these situations as a whole and make any adjustments for the future. We can bring in other healthy forms of coping and everything. So yeah, let's jump into it. Oh, I have a good example. Our boss says, hey, I want to meet with you at the end of the day to discuss something, right? In those situations, like, wait a second, wait, what? You want to, what is it? And in those moments, we may say, can you tell me right now? And they may say, oh, I have a meeting. I can't really discuss it right now. So now, what automatic thoughts are just kind of popping into our mind, right? Where some of our automatic thoughts could be, what did I do wrong? Why does the boss want to speak with me? Reflecting on our previous interactions with our boss and coworkers, right? So a number of things that are popping up in our mind. And sometimes, again, it could be, oh, maybe the boss wants to give me a raise. So it can be a bit positive at times, right? We can have those positive type of thoughts pop into our mind, but more so when those simply unhelpful thoughts really pop into our mind, because internally our thoughts influences our emotions, and our emotions influence how we respond, both on a physiological level and our behavior. So when those unhelpful thoughts are popping up of, did I do something wrong? Am I going to get fired or anything like that? We want to be able to pay attention, because that's going to really give us great information on how we're responding. So the situation again of our boss says, hey, I want to meet with you at the end of the day to discuss something. Very vague. We don't know the reason why they're asking, hey, Ray, I want to meet with you at the end of the day. Can you tell me right now? Oh, I can't. I have a meeting, or there's not enough time. We'll wait till the end of the day. It's anxiety provoking, right? It can be. And these are some of the automatic thoughts that can just pop into our mind. And our types of reactions for the emotions, we could feel anxious, right? We could start feeling anxious, and our behavior. Oh, and just to throw this out there, we can definitely feel more than one emotion at a time. When it comes to our behavior, we can respond in a number of different ways, right? Let's say because of this interaction that happened in the morning, we start to complete all of our work ahead of time, right? Because we're like, oh, wait, is it because of our efficiency at work? Okay, we're going to quickly do all of our work ahead of time now. So just in case that the boss is going to say, hey, we've been looking at your work performance and everything. It's like, oh, no, I got on it. I did it all today, right? We could also, our behavior could be asking other coworkers if the boss asks to speak with them this week, right? So our behavior, now we're going to our coworkers and saying, hey, did the boss ask to speak with you about something? Did he didn't give, any real details about it? You said, oh, I'll speak to you later today or anything like that. Did that happen? Yeah, no, just me. Right? So we can respond our behavior in a number of different ways. And that's why, because it's, especially when it's specific to the individual, we want to be able to break this down for ourselves. And then when we go to the physiological response, think about how your body is responding, right? Our heart could start racing. We could start sweating. We could feel a pit in our stomach, right? I think of, if you ever been in this situation or you've experienced this on a TV show or anything, where when they say like, okay, coming up to the stage where someone's about to give a performance or a speech, they call your name, and in that moment, no one turned up the heat, but now they're sweating like crazy. No one hit them in the stomach, but now they feel a massive pit in their stomach. And the only thing that happened was the announcer called their name onto the stage, right? So how that person is perceiving it, they could think, oh man, I'm going to be in a room full of people. All eyes are going to be on me. What if I stumble over my words? What if I trip? How about if it's not entertaining enough? How about if it's boring? And again, remember, their body, their physiological response, they're starting to sweat now. They feel like a pit in their stomach. No one hit them in the stomach. No one turned up the heat in the room, but they're responding based off of their perception of it. And on the other end, How about if someone was excited, right? They're saying, oh, they finally called my name. Finally, finally, finally. So now they're happy, they're motivated, they're excited, they're ready, they're almost like running on stage, right? So being able to pay attention to those automatic thoughts and those images, if applicable, when they pop into our mind, so that we have a better understanding of how we're responding as a whole. And for the viewers, I have an action plan assignment for you guys. The action plan is another, term for therapy homework, but it's very beneficial. So for the next 24 hours or more, identify automatic thoughts that pop into your mind when you feel distressed about something or when engaging in unhealthy behaviors such as avoiding, procrastinating, lying, substance use, overeating, etc. And create a cognitive model for yourself to help you identify why you felt the way that you did in that moment and how you're responding to that situation as a result. Remember to ask yourself, what was going through my mind, to help you identify your automatic thoughts. And comment below what you noticed about yourself. So you can, come back to this video, comment like, hey, I noticed that during these times, I kind of perceive these situations this way. And as a result, I respond this way, because knowing is half the battle. When we have this greater understanding about ourselves, that's when we can begin to implement different strategies to help us kind of break up that cycle, especially if we identify that it's just simply unhelpful. And if it's all positive and we respond really well to these situations, we want to keep it going, and we want to have a great understanding of that as a whole. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And again, try it out for 24 hours, see what comes up for yourself, see how you've been perceiving certain situations and how you've been responding to them as a whole, so that we have that greater understanding about ourselves. Okay, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye.